Okay, so something strange happened this week.
Ow! Stop pulling my ears, stop pulling my ears! Never pull a bunny's ear!
Yeah, Zootopia 2 is still making money, and it's become one of the biggest box office successes in recent record. And yeah, I'm someone who thought that this movie was going to do well, but did I think it was going to do this well? No. No, I'm not someone who's ever going to underestimate the devastating power of furries.
Woo! Hops and Wiles. Dream team.
But still, did I ever think that this movie was going to make $1.7 billion?
No.
1.7 billion. Do you know how many AI investments Disney can make with this money? Like 2 maybe, which yes is depressing in and of itself. But still, we're getting sidetracked, so let's get back to the point for the moment. Zootopia 2 has made $1.7 billion, which is great, but it still hasn't beaten Neja 2, and probably won't. Again, sidetrack, back to the point. So really, by every metric, this movie has done exceedingly well. And on a budget of just 150 million, my god, this movie has been an incredible economic success as well. This movie has managed to make hundreds of millions of dollars across the world. But by far its biggest success would have to be in China, where the film has grossed roughly $627 million, which is almost enough money to actually have dethroned the last biggest success in China, Avengers Endgame. And that is of course for Hollywood movies, by the way, because yeah, they're still not beating Neja 2. And with this you might be thinking that I'm making this video just to celebrate the success of Zootopia 2. Well, you would be wrong. Because instead, all of this success for Disney has recently had me go down a rabbit hole. And what hole would that have been? Well, it's a rabbit hole all about budgets. Specifically, budgets for animated films. And do you know what I've realised from doing all of this research? Do you know what I've realised after I have crawled and slithered and made my way down every crevice and hole in this rabbit hole? I have realised that budgets for animated films are insane. They're out of control and they're completely unprofitable. And worse yet, only the barest essential bits of this budget are actually going to the people who need the money the most. The animators and artists who work to put these films together are paid pennies. And really the largest part of these budgets is often being spent on voice talent, popular influencers and A-list celebrities.
Elevar!
Aloft Elevar!
No, from your heart's fire!
Aloft Elevar!
Heart's fire!
And it's not just the voice talent where the majority of the budget is always going. Instead, inordinate amounts of money are often being spent on marketing campaigns. Because really, when a movie's being marketed, executives want to get that movie everywhere. And this is because the strategy focuses on getting as many butts in seats as possible, and they do that by forcing as many ads down your throat as humanly possible. These two areas specifically seem to be where the majority of an animated film's budget is spent. And this is contributing to a problem in the animation industry, where the budgets for the actual development of an animated film are incredibly low. Now, I haven't actually managed to find any specific statistics for this, but what I have been able to find are symptoms of the issue. Because really, if you look at a bunch of animated films today, you'll realise pretty quickly that in the US there are only 2 studios who still keep the entire development of their animated films in-house. With those 2 studios being Pixar and of course, Disney Animation. Other studios like DreamWorks still keep some of the development of their films in-house. But in addition to this, they also export the actual animation and development of their animated films offshore. And why are they doing that? Because it's cheaper. Salaries for animators do of course vary by nation. However, when it comes to larger economies where the cost of living is higher, like the US and the United Kingdom, this often means that salaries for animators are higher, especially in comparison to other nations where the cost of living is generally lower. Nations like the Philippines offer lower salaries for animators, and this is attractive to big studios who want to cut down on costs by paying animators less, especially in the US. Largely for the reasons that I just mentioned, big studios in the US are always looking for ways to cut costs on the development of their films. And so sending work offshore is a good way to do that. And it's not always just the big studios that do this. Vivian Medrano, the creator of Has Been Hotel, has also briefly spoken about this subject, in which she referenced how work was being sent over to the Philippines because it was cheaper. And I might put a video of Vivian Medrano saying this in here, but I might not be able to find it, so if I can't find it, it's not going to be here. But it is still a good point. Anyway, getting back to the point I'm making, studios today are always looking for ways to cut costs, but the budgets for their films are still so massive and exceedingly high, be it because of the A-list celebrities they're hiring for their voices, or the massive marketing campaigns they're using to promote their films. Studios today are investing so much of this money into the development of a film, hoping for a great payout. Payouts like what we're seeing for the Zootopia 2 movie. But something that a lot of studios today aren't actually acknowledging is the fact that payouts like what we're seeing with Zootopia 2 are not the norm, they are the exception. Because of course, not every animated film that's going to come out is always going to be a billion-dollar success. And really, I think we saw this demonstrated really pretty well last year with the release of the Bad Guys 2, which was a good movie. I really enjoyed it, and it was a film that I ranked pretty highly on my list of animated films for last year. But still, despite all the creative success that me and other films bucketed onto the film last year, this still wasn't enough to make the film a great financial success, as the film only really made about $240 million on a budget of $80 million. Really, in the industry, it's expected that for a film to be successful, it needs to make maybe 2 to 3 times its budget back. And by this metric, The Bad Guys 2 is a fairly decent success. But still, I'm sure it's not nearly the same sort of success that the executives behind the film were looking for. Really, when it comes to films like these, where the budgets measure in the hundreds of millions, I'm really pretty sure that executives and company officials are looking for larger box office returns. And really what I'm trying to get at here is just the fact that I think that this whole thing has grown out of control. And really I think the budgets for animated films are too large. And I believe that we're feeling the negative effects of taking these larger budget films. And why would you think that, by the way? Well, let's take a look at a movie like Arco. Arco is a fantastically animated, beautiful little French film, as well as a film definitely worth going out to see, by the way. Arco is also a film that was developed for a budget of 9.5 million euros, which roughly converted is around about $11.5 million, which we can all agree, I'm pretty sure, is exceedingly small in comparison to a lot of the budgets for larger animated films that we're seeing. But still, there are some great benefits to this. Benefits such as more money going into the hands of the actual creators of the film, the animators, which also makes life for those animators in Europe exceedingly better. And no, it's not just the French that are reaping these rewards. Because of course, once every blue moon, because of course when the stars align, Ireland and the UK do occasionally put out a similar budget movie. Like with the fantastic Song of the Sea film, which had a budget of only $7.5 million. Again, this isn't a big budget animated film that stars a bunch of A-list celebrities. Instead, it's a smaller budgeted film which gives more money to its animators and creators, in addition to also giving those creators and the director more creative control over what they're making. Which isn't something I've talked about yet, but we'll talk about now. And of course, you can see what I'm getting at here with films like Elio. Elio was not a great success, neither creatively or financially. The film had a budget of $150 to $200 million. And it only made back $154 million. And really, this movie is all over the place. And why is that? Probably because of executive tampering. Yes, behind the scenes, the development of this film was kind of a mess. Like a lot of critics, I could not connect Elio's feelings in the movie to his wanting to be abducted by aliens. It was only after seeing the movie that I began to understand when I began to look into the film's development, because initial test screenings of the movie gave us a movie that was very different to what we eventually got. Hell, the original director even left the film. Why? Well, because the original movie was something far different to what we actually got. Initial test screenings thought the movie was a bit too overly emotional, something that test audiences thought people would have trouble connecting to. Because apparently in the original film, not only did Elio lose his parents like in the film that we got, but there was also apparently a more broader examination of his queer identity, which didn't test well with audiences initially. So Disney, Pixar, or somebody behind the scenes bailed out, choosing to cut the film's attempt to explore Elio's queer identity, which, thinking about it now, did have a devastating effect on the film. Because of course, if this had been left in the film, Elio's thoughts and attempts to be abducted by aliens would have made more sense, with him being alienated from everybody else on Earth. And really, this removal of the film's examinations of Latino and queer identity is something that caused the original director, Adrian Molina, to leave the film. The film was then passed around a few times until eventually it found a new director, and it was put together to give us the film that we got. And unsurprisingly, it ended up being something that was entirely too messy, as it felt as if it were a film that was cut between trying to please executives and trying to please audiences. And yes, something that really did not help this situation was Pixar, whose apparently best idea to react to this poor box office performance was to say that this is the reason why new original films aren't being made, because audiences don't show up. Which still doesn't make any sense at all. But hey, at least it did give us
lizard, 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 lizard.
So hey, what am I trying to say with this video? Well, the first thing that I'm of course trying to say is that you should go out and watch The Animation Budget Paradox by Miguel, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, because of course he has a great video talking about this subject more in depth than I can right now. And really, it was his video that got me digging down a rabbit hole of various different Wikipedia pages. So please, definitely go out there and give his video a watch. Lastly, what I really want to say with this video is just that I think that there are opportunities out there that we're not taking. Big budget animated films are great, especially with films like Zootopia 2, which are just so much fun to watch. But still, there are other films being made out there. Films like Arco, films like Song of the Sea, smaller budgeted films that are just as enjoyable as films like Zootopia 2. And honestly, I feel as if there's an entirely different dimension of storytelling being explored with these smaller budgeted films. For every reason that I've already talked about, like better salaries for animators and more creative control for directors and creators, I truly do believe that sometimes smaller budgeted animated films can actually outshine their larger big budget animated competition. Personally, it's my dream to one day work in the animation industry and put out either a film or a series. And honestly, it's something that I'm always working to achieve behind the scenes of this YouTube channel. And recently, this whole argument that I've had going on inside my head has had me wondering recently as to what I might be able to one day make or want to one day make. And really, I think that this is a question that a lot of creatives and directors are always trying to tackle. Do you want a smaller budgeted film with more creative control for yourself and better salaries for the people working on that film with you? Or do you want a larger budgeted film, which sure might get in front of more audiences, but you will have less creative control over? And with all of this said, I now want to put this question to everybody in the comments section down below. What do you think of the smaller budgeted animated films where creators have more control and better salaries? Do you, like me, think that the budgets for animated films are growing out of control? Or do you still want to just focus on the larger big budget animated films? Please, do let me know, because I think there's a real conversation that can be had here. And also, with that said, please don't forget to do all the usual YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.